All right, I'm glad you're there, and I am here, and God is in his heaven, and all is right with us. I want to tell you a little bit about my own recovery, but primarily I want us all to know this part of Scripture, that where it says, "We shall reap in due season if we faint not." Now, God's grace is reliable as his throne. His love for us does not change. The provision that comes through that love and because of that love will never falter. But at the same time, God puts a requirement on us. We shall reap. What are we going to reap? We're going to reap the blessings of God, the love of God, the provision of God, and all that God has intended for us is ultimately going to become ours. We reap in due season. Now, that, of course, is applicable here to life on the planet. It isn't speaking about life in the hereafter, at least as I understand. But we reap in due season, proper season, season when it's like fruit growing on the vine. We don't want to pick it green, and that's the big temptation. God tells us we reap in due season if we faint not. I've just been through, I guess it would be called a crisis. I came to North Georgia to be with my daughter and son-in-law, who many of you know, and caught COVID on the flight. I was only going to be here for 2 weeks, and now here, that was in the end of June. June, July, August, and now September 1st. And I'm still here. And probably will be here for another 3 weeks minimally, perhaps more. But I want to mention this. It was 71 years ago today, here in North Georgia, actually Atlanta, where I was pastor, that my dear wife Laurie and I were married. Awesome, awesome memory. We had a most happy marriage. One daughter, Cecile Karin, now McGuire, whom many of you know. It was 103 degrees that day in Atlanta. None of the churches were air conditioned. It was so hot in the church, and the building was packed wall to wall. The wall space was lined with people standing. It was so hot that the candles melted and turned upside down. Well, the dear florist who was in charge of that, of course, climbed up into the bushes, and shrubbery, which was behind the candelabra, and reached through the shrubbery, as I call it, and straightened up all the candles. Well, there were 2 candelabra. By the time he got through with the second candelabra, all the candles in the first candelabra had turned upside down again. I think he straightened them up twice and then quit because it was that hot. Those were what we call the good old days, and they really were. Thank God for them. But these days are better. My wife has been gone now 10 years, unfortunately, but we had 61 years of marriage before she left for heaven. I've got a few more years, perhaps. None of us are guaranteed how long we're going to remain on the earth, but we know one thing, and hear this carefully. He who has begun a good work in us will perform it. Did you hear that? Listen carefully. He, God, who has begun a good work in us will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. Now, there's something God requires of us to do. But in this issue, in this matter, God's saying, no, I'm going to be the one who finishes it. Rest in that. You hear me? Turn loose of your anxious fears. Trust God. He's worthy of your trust. And ultimately, He brings us to Himself in glory, where we're with Him, the saints, forever. All right, God bless you. Love you big. Thank you for all your support. We'll talk again soon. Bye.